It all began on a quiet night inside a nearly empty pharmacy, tucked at the end of a sleepy suburban strip mall. The sky above Savannah, Georgia, still held the humid weight of the day, even though the sun had long since slipped behind the horizon. Streetlights buzzed against the thick air, casting pools of sickly yellow across the cracked asphalt. Vanessa Carter, a 56-year-old nurse who had spent more than 3 decades tending to the broken, the sick, and the forgotten, pulled her aging Buick into a spot beneath a flickering lamp. Her legs ached from back-to-back shifts at Memorial Hospital, her shoulders stiff, her eyes heavy. All she wanted was to pick up her blood pressure medication and get home to her quiet little bungalow, maybe soak her tired feet and fall into bed. She moved with the slow, careful grace of someone used to ignoring pain. The automatic doors slid open with a reluctant whoosh as she entered the fluorescent-lit store. Inside, a teenager slouched behind the counter, his face lit blue by the glow of his phone. Vanessa approached, offering a polite smile, and handed over her prescription slip, ID, and insurance card. It was supposed to be a 2-minute transaction, the same as it had been for years. The boy barely glanced at her documents before typing half-heartedly into the computer. Minutes ticked by. He frowned, called over the manager, a woman in her 40s with pinched features and tightly pinned blonde hair. Vanessa watched the two of them whisper and glance over at her with thinly veiled suspicion. The shift in the room was immediate. The heavy, crawling sensation of being watched, being judged, settled on Vanessa's shoulders like an old, familiar burden. She stood up straighter, folding her hands calmly in front of her. Nurses knew how to wait. They knew how to be patient when the air around them turned cold and tight. Finally, the manager approached, her smile brittle. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said in a voice dipped in artificial sweetness. "There's an issue with your account. We can't process your prescription tonight." Vanessa's brows furrowed. "There must be some mistake. I've filled this prescription here for years. Please check again." The manager took a small step back, her hands folding tightly over her clipboard. "I'm afraid we've already contacted the authorities to investigate," she said. For a moment, Vanessa simply stared at her. "The authorities?" she repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. The clerk behind the counter sank lower into his chair, unable to meet her gaze. Outside, the faint wail of approaching sirens grew louder, slicing through the thick summer air. Vanessa could have walked out. She could have demanded her paperwork back and left. But she knew walking away would be seen as guilt. Staying would invite humiliation. She chose to stay. The front doors banged open moments later, and a police officer strode in. Both white, both radiating the casual authority of men accustomed to immediate compliance. The taller of the two, Officer Jack Reynolds, wore a sneer as natural as breathing. His partner, Officer Brian Tucker, hovered slightly behind, his posture less aggressive but no less complicit. The manager rushed toward them, her voice dropping into an urgent whisper. "That's her. Tried to pick up a fraudulent prescription, probably using stolen insurance." Neither officer asked for paperwork. Neither officer checked her ID. They saw Vanessa, standing calm and tired beneath the humming lights, and made their decision. "Ma'am," Officer Reynolds said, one hand already drifting toward his belt, "I'm going to need you to step outside." Vanessa's back straightened even further. "I haven't done anything wrong," she said, her voice steady. The officer's face hardened. "We can do this easy, or we can do it hard." Round the store, customers began to whisper. One man near the cold remedies aisle pulled out his phone and started recording. Good, Vanessa thought. Let them see. She held out her ID again. "Everything matches. I have my prescription. You can check." Officer Reynolds didn't even look. In one quick, brutal motion, he grabbed her wrist, yanked it behind her back, and clapped the cuffs on with unnecessary force. Gasps echoed through the pharmacy. Vanessa didn't resist. Nurses knew, too, when resistance only fed the beast. As they shoved her through the store toward the waiting squad car, she caught the triumphant smirk on the manager's face. She met it with a look of pure, ice-edged fury. "You're making the worst mistake of your life," Vanessa said quietly. Just before the car door slammed shut, trapping her in the back seat. The ride to the station was short, but every second felt like hours. In the front seat, Reynolds and Tucker joked in low voices, their words thick with ugly insinuations. "What is it with these people?" Reynolds muttered. Vanessa stared out the window, jaw locked tight, fury and grief warring inside her chest. At the station, they processed her like she was trash. Mugshot, fingerprints, harsh hands on bruised wrists, booking paperwork listing her as black female suspected prescription fraud. They tossed her into a holding cell without so much as a glance at the documents. Still tucked inside her purse the proof of her innocence. She sat on the cold metal bench, staring at the blank wall opposite her, breathing slowly, methodically. She had worked 30 years saving lives. Now they treated her like a criminal for daring to exist while black. But she wasn't alone. Miles away, in a brick house filled with framed diplomas and worn leather law books, her brother Anthony Carter answered a phone call. And Anthony was no ordinary man. He was a senior attorney for the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. When he heard the trembling voice of the teenager from the pharmacy explaining what had happened, Anthony didn't hesitate. He made 3 phone calls, one to the U.S. Attorney's Office, one to the director of the FBI's Savannah Field office, and one more to the Attorney General himself. By the time Officer Reynolds swaggered back toward Vanessa's cell, the entire police station was already a ticking time bomb. "You ready to confess yet?" Reynolds sneered. Vanessa looked up slowly, calmly. "You're going to wish you had checked my ID," she said. The front doors of the station slammed open. Federal agents in suits moved in like a tidal wave. Black SUVs lined the parking lot. Reporters' cameras blinked into existence as if summoned by justice itself. Within minutes, the station was locked down. Computers seized. Officers pulled aside for questioning. Surveillance footage secured. Body cams downloaded. Officer Reynolds' smirk faltered, then vanished. In the center of it all stood Anthony Carter, his presence like the sharp edge of a blade. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Release her," Anthony said. No one argued. An agent unlocked Vanessa's cell. She stepped out without a word, without a glance back at the officers who had humiliated her. She walked free, her head held high. Outside, a crowd had gathered. People who had seen the videos. People who were tired of staying silent. The night Vanessa Carter was arrested became the night Savannah woke up. Investigations followed. Audits exposed years of misconduct. Officers resigned. Some were indicted. Policies changed. But Vanessa didn't chase the cameras. She didn't bask in fame. She returned to her work, to her patients, to her life. She had fought for her dignity, and she had won. Not by shouting, not by fighting, by standing, by refusing to be small. And because she had stood, others found the courage to stand, too. In the end, the real victory wasn't just hers. It belonged to everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong and chose to rise anyway.